Yes, it's 9:15 on a very windy Monday night. I am in my back garden drinking, and that is a computer tower on a patio table. And right now you're probably thinking, Dave, what the hell has this got to do with the Canon R5? Well, let me explain. The computer case and all the lighting is so I can shoot a thumbnail for an upcoming video, which, if you haven't guessed already, is all about cooking. It's not actually to do with cooking. Well, if you want me to do videos about cooking, let me know. I'm sure I can balls them up as well. So that's why the computer tower and the lights are out here. Although I was going to be out in the garden anyway with the camera, because it's a fairly clear night. The Lyrid meteor shower is supposed to be happening, and also in about half an hour, Elon Musk's freaking choo-choo train of starry satellites is supposed to be transiting over. So I thought I'd come out and have a look at those. And while I'm out here anyway, I figured, why not have a discussion with you guys about the newly confirmed specs of the Canon R5? And we'll get onto that in a second. But in regards to the thumbnail, just in case anyone's wondering, because I'm sure someone's bound to ask. Oh, quarantine has driven me to drink. So the video that this is going to be a thumbnail for is one that's going to be out hopefully very soon, talking about what components do you actually need for editing 4K video. Because actually I think there's a misconception about what you need and what you don't. So that video discusses that in a bit more in depth, but I wanted something that's a bit of an eye-catching thumbnail. Now, I did actually try doing the thumbnail before, but it didn't really go to plan. There was just too much ambient light, so hence why I've waited for it to go dark. And also there's not really much space in the house at the moment. For obviously, with the bigger the size of subject that you're photographing, the bigger the background area needs to be, and there's just not enough space in the house. So I've dragged all this out into the back garden so that the neighbours can look at me and think, what the frickin' hell is he doing? So that's basically what I'm doing whilst I'm talking to you, is I'm kind of putting some random lights in and around a computer case in the hope that I can come up with something that looks like quite an interesting thumbnail. Probably won't work, but hey, sod it. I need a wider lens. I'll be back in a second. 28's not wide enough. 20 or the full 11? Try the 20 first. Which is handy anyway, because I'm going to be using these in a bit to photograph the satellites going over. And hopefully the meteors as well. Full 11. You can never be too wide. Actually, that's not strictly true. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to move you again, because you're kind of in my shot now. So, Canon R5 announcement made today. Not the official release of it, not the finalised specs, but Canon have confirmed a lot more information that was speculation at this point. So they've confirmed that it's going to have 8K full sensor recording up to 30 frames a second, 10-bit. That's impressive. It's also going to have 4K full sensor readout up to 120 frames a second, I believe also in 10-bit. That's even more impressive. Lights are a bit overpowering, so we'll just dim these down a bit. Shit. I forgot I need to be 16:9, not 3:2. I think I can work with that. Also, not only have they got 8K full sensor 30 frames a second and 4K full sensor 120 frames a second, all of the 8K and 4K recordings include dual pixel autofocus. I don't think anyone was expecting that. They've also confirmed the memory card setup, which is what I suspected it was: one CF Express and one SD UHS 2 card slot, which obviously mirrors what they did with the 5D Mark III and Mark IV, although they were CF cards and SD cards, but it's the same principle, two different recording formats. Now, there were a lot of people in the comment section saying, well, this is great, but I don't shoot anything to do with video, I don't care, and there's no mention of still specs. But I don't really know what more in stills you can get, to be honest. I mean, the fact that it does 8K full sensor readout pretty much confirms that the camera is at least 45 megapixels. It's got dual pixel autofocus, it's got 5-axis in-body stabilization. We know it's going to have 20 frames a second electronic and mechanical shutter, and the fact that it's got a CF Express card, we know from the 1DX Mark III, is extremely quick at clearing the buffer. So it's going to be a pretty bloody good all-round stills camera as well. I think Canon are more emphasising the video specs of this camera because that's where they've come under criticism in recent years. The fact that they've not been pushing video capabilities in their cameras as much as other companies have been doing. The only thing Canon haven't mentioned a peep about so far really is the price tag. Unless one of the 8Ks is the price tag and people misunderstood it. That's about the price tag I'd expect for a camera of those sorts of specs. Anyway, it's now like 20 to 10, so satellites are due over at some point, and I could probably do with packing all this stuff up. And I need to refill my glass. Well, Skytrain's been over. All a bit naff, really, to be honest. I mean, I'm not really sure what I was expecting, to be honest, but I was expecting a little more than what I saw. I think from everything I'd seen online, it looked like it was going to be, you know, like a string of satellites, you know, in quick succession. And, I mean, there was a couple, but they seem to just be, like, quite far apart, unless I just couldn't see them because of the light pollution. But right now I have the camera going off on a continuous with the 11mm lens facing roughly north, trying to hopefully pick up a Meteor R5. I don't get it. We're all in lockdown. No one's allowed out, apart from essential workers, so the majority, no one's out this time of night. Street lamps are pretty much irrelevant. So I might start a petition to see if I could get them to switch off all the lights from like 10 o'clock onwards, just all street lamps off. One, it'll cut down the country's electricity bill, but two, people can actually enjoy the night sky while they're all stuck at home with all else to do. Anyway, to wrap up with the R5, all in all, I think the specs do look really impressive. It just remains to be seen whether the finished article, when it releases, does kind of live up to the specs of it. There's one spec, however, regarding the R5 that I'd be very interested to see if it's there or not, and that's the 30-minute record limit. Because currently, like Sony, Fuji, most of the major manufacturers have ditched the 30-minute record limit on their cameras, but Canon still insist on having it. As far as I know, all of their cameras still have 30-minute record limits, even though, as I've covered in a previous video, the only reason why cameras ever had a 30-minute record limit was for tax reasons, because back in 2007 when they introduced these taxes, there was only really camcorders on the market back then that could record for longer than 30 minutes. No cameras ever could, so it wasn't a problem. Obviously now technology's advanced and things have progressed. Most cameras are capable of recording for well over 30 minutes. So as of July last year, the rules were supposedly changed so that there's no additional tax for cameras that can record over 30 minutes. And yet since then, pretty much all subsequent Sony releases, for example, have no recording limits, and yet all the Canons still do. And I don't know why they have. So it'll be interesting to see whether they continue a 30-minute record limit, because it'll be a bit disappointing if they do. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it for this video, guys. So as always, if you have any questions or queries, comment box is down below. While you're down there, if you haven't already, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.